Melda's having a pretty cool sale for their 16th anniversary. They're calling it Hexadecimal Anniversary. And if you know the channel, of course, I'm going to suggest you get MSoundFactory.LE. That's a great deal. But a while back, I also bought the MMixingFXBundle. And I think this could be an interesting investment as well for some of you. So I'm going to show you my top 10 plugins from the MMixingFXBundle, which is 34 plugins. I'm going to show you my top 10. Maybe you also want to consider purchasing some of them individually, or maybe you already have the MMixingFXBundle and I can just show you some gems that you might have missed. On the number 10 spot, we have MTurboComp. I have it on this Monster Drums Lin kit. Dry, it sounds like this. And with MTurboComp, so MTurboComp is a collection of many different modeled vintage compressors. We have an 1176 clone, there's an LA2A clone, a DBX clone, and for a drum machine like the Lin drum, maybe I'm inclined to put a DBX on there, so the DB Melda 160. The way I would use this plugin is oftentimes I'm a bit hot for the default settings in this plugin. Look at this. We get a whole lot of gain reduction. That's usually too much, and I don't want that much gain reduction. What I do in that case is I turn down the input signal. Just until I get a more reasonable amount of gain reduction, and then I might want to hit automatic gain compensation and keep that turned on. And now our wet and dry signal are pretty much exactly the same loudness. Let's check it with bypass. Wet. Dry. Wet. That's pretty good. Maybe I want a bit more intense compression. This compression dial right here is a timing control. And if you turn it up, the compression gets more intense. And if you turn it down, it gets more relaxed. And then usually you even have a separate saturation control. And then if you think, I might want to try a different model on this, like a distressor clone, you can just dial in whatever you want right here. And whenever you go back to a previous compressor you were using, the settings will still be there. That's MTurboComp. On number 9 on my list, I have MCharacter. This will only work on monophonic signals and is kind of a spectral designer. Notice these 3 tabs. Let's look at the levels one first. And this is kind of an EQ that follows the pitch of your signal. We have this guitar right here. And now we can do stuff like increase the fundamental, or reduce it. We can add more of the higher harmonics in general. And if you do pretty heavy processing, sometimes you'll get artifacts like we just heard. But generally speaking, this tab is just an EQ that's very precise and follows the pitch of your signal. Let's go to the synthesis tab. Here we can synthesize new harmonics. So there might not have been really anything on the 3rd octave, but now we can just synthesize that. Or we can just enrich the sound in general. If we introduce all the harmonics, we kind of get a sawtooth feel. And if the pitch detection doesn't work as reliably as you want, maybe you have to adjust some of the detector settings right here. Let's see if there are some interesting presets. Now we have a completely synthetic signal because the dry signal is turned all the way to 0. And then there's the third tab, notes, and what that one does is it doesn't work with harmonics, but it works with actual notes. So you can, for example, introduce a sine wave that's just a second higher. Octave higher. Octave lower even. 2 octaves lower. A fifth higher. Or way too many notes, like a cluster of notes. I think this is a very powerful plugin. It doesn't work quite as reliably as I would hope, but for creative sound design, for experimenting with sound and synthesis, this is really cool. On number 8, we have MChorusMB. We're hearing samples and electrics, and I'm just showing some of the chorus sounds you can get out of it. I think it's a pretty nice sounding chorus. Again, you have many different modules right here on the side. These are like different devices, and if you want more granular control, go to this edit screen right here, and you have multiple bands to play with. You can insert bands right here. I don't want to go into details here. Just a nice chorus that's in the bundle. Dry. Wet. On number 7, I have MAutoVolume. This is pretty much a vocal rider, bass rider, automatic volume plugin. Let's hear it on this vocal. The captain is shouting us out of the deck with the sun. Some of these syllables jump out a bit, and then the end phrasing of sun is maybe a bit quiet. And now with MAutoVolume enabled, the captain is shouting us out of the deck with the sun. You can see for the quiet phases, it's adding a bit of gain, and you can make it more sensitive. The captain is shouting us out of the deck with the sun. You can enable some look ahead. You can control the detector. Maybe we can ignore some of the low end and focus more on the mid-range for our detection. The captain is shouting us out of the deck with the sun. We gained some volume. I turned it down a bit. The captain is shouting us out of the deck. And dry. The captain is shouting us out of the deck with the sun. And in the context of a mix, dry. The captain is shouting us out of the deck with the sun. Wet. The captain is shouting us out of the deck with the sun. Number 6 on my personal list is MModernCompressor. Let's have another listen to the drums. What we can do with this one is we can kind of have an automatically generated compressor preset. What we have to do for that is we click Analyze and play our track or our drums. Now it's generating this graph right here, and the lower it is in the graph, the quieter it is. And I think the further to the right it is, the more often we're hearing that specific dynamic level. And now what I would do is I would drag this dynamic level handle to a place where you think these loud parts, maybe like these loud parts, I want to compress these. This will mean everything below here, below minus 45 decibel won't get compressed, and everything above will get compressed. I would do this more or less visually. Let's analyze it a bit longer. Maybe like here. Maybe here. Let's compress everything above around minus 20 decibel. Now we can read right here, this is 24.5 decibel of dynamic range. Now we have to request the dynamic range that is lower. Usually you want to compress the signal, you want to lower the dynamic range. 15 might be a bit squashed, so let's just try out like 19 decibel of dynamic range. Auto compress. Let's automatically gain, compensate, and compare. Dry. Wet. I think that's a pretty nice sound. What it did is it selected an appropriate threshold and ratio. It doesn't do anything with attack and release though. You can of course adjust that a bit more if you want. But usually I'm pretty happy with just the default sound I get compressing like this. Let's hear what happens if we squash it a bit more to 10 decibel. Yeah, that's a bit squashed. Let's take that down a bit. Now we're compressing a dynamic range of 50 decibel. Let's try to compress that to around 30. I'm just guessing here, honestly, and then I'm judging if I like the sound. That's too much. Let's go to 40. That's something. So if you want to be able to tell a compressor, please give me this specific dynamic range. And if you want some suggestions for how you could compress your signal, this is a pretty cool plugin to use. On number 5, I put MSpectralDynamics. This is the LE version that comes with the MMixingFXBundle, and I think this is a bit limited in the sense that you can't see exactly what is happening. Let's have a quick look at the bigger brother. Well, you can see right here, there's some spectral processing going on. The signal is analyzed spectrally and certain frequencies are reduced or balanced, things like this. And if there was a nice visualizer for what's happening, I think it would be a lot easier to work with this. For example, flattening. What I assume is happening is something like we have in MSpectralDynamicsLE. This is a baby audio plugin, and what this one does is if something crosses the line right here, any frequency, it will get compressed. The captain is shouting us out of the deck with the sun. So you can smoothen out the signal. Some peaking frequencies will be reduced, or you can just overall tone shape a signal, make it flat. The captain is shouting us out of the deck with the sun. And I think that's the same thing that's happening with this flattening module. Tone will kind of make a curve more dark or more bright. And then you can adjust the amount of compression, make it more or less brutal, and just dial in the effect overall. The captain is shouting us out of the deck with the sun. The captain is shouting us out of the deck with the sun. The captain is shouting us out of the deck with the sun. I don't know if this is the best example. Let's also hear it on the electric keys. And aside from this flattening module, you also have a spectral de-esser. There is a difference button right there. Let's try it on the vocals. I would do it like this. Put in difference, find a nice S. The captain is shouting us out of the deck with us. The captain is shouting us out of the captain is shouting us out of. These were pretty tame S's to begin with. Nice to have a spectral de-esser though. There's also a denoiser where you can capture a noise profile. It works pretty well. I don't have a great example to show it on at the moment. And you can do some sidechain spectral ducking like you could also do with Smooth Operator or Track Spacer. Useful plugin. I wish there was better visualization for what's actually happening. On number 4, I have MSaturatorMB. This is one of my go-to saturators. Let's hear it on a bass. I especially like the analogize device. One cool thing that it does, and you can do this with pretty much all Melda plugins, is there is some modulation going on. See, there is a modulation tab right here. And if we go to Edit, Utilities, you can see you can pretty much always add some modulation, even envelope followers and stuff. Pretty cool stuff. This isn't the video to show all of this though. I just want to say this is a cool saturator. I use it a lot. And it's multiband if you want to do some multiband saturation. And if you want to do it more detail focused, you can also do it on this tab right here. Basically, I'd say this competes easily with isotopes, saturators, exciters, or even with something like Cable Guy's Drive Shaper for Shaperbox because of these modulations that you can enable here. My number 3 plugin of the bundle is MLimiterX. I honestly think this is not a too exciting plugin. This is just a pretty decent limiter. Let's hear it on the whole mix. Usually I would put it in punchy mode because it handles transients way better, I feel. The maximizer punchy is pretty much the only way I use this limiter. There is also 2 other devices and you can also edit it with more detail, but personally the punchy maximizer is honestly the only way I ever use it. It's fine, it doesn't really compete to me with something like TDR's limiter or Ozone. It's nice to have the saturation right built in. It sounds good enough, so I use it from time to time, especially if I have to quickly limit something just to bring up the loudness a bit. I tend to grab this one, but not always. But for final masters, it doesn't make it onto my tracks a lot. Still, I think it's a decent plugin, and I think number 3 is a good spot for it. It gets used. A bit more interesting, honestly, I think, is MDynamics. And this is my number 2 pick. Again, this comes with tons of different devices, from compressors to gates to sidechain duckers, de-esser, mix glue compressors, vocal compressors, drum compressors, even limiters, a low-level boost, that's cool, so like an upwards compressor. Mix glue. And again, you can go under the hood, edit stuff with more detail. What I usually do is, if I don't know what compressor I should be using, maybe I'll throw one of these by-purpose compressors on a mix, or maybe I can't figure out what to do with a vocal. I try out, what happens if I put the MDynamics vocal compressor on there? To me, this is kind of a nice box of toys. Of course, box of tools, you know. So this is not a workhorse of mine, but I end up using it from time to time because I feel there was a lot of care put into these devices. And now for my number 1 pick. Of course, it's MTurboReverbLE. The LE version, I think, is plenty good. You have a ton of different reverb devices in here, very nicely categorized. And you have tons of settings you can adjust, different algorithms within devices. It's an algorithmic reverb, and everything's in there. Let's hear it on electrics. I use other reverbs than this, but where I pretty much always use MTurboReverb is for like a drum room. Let's hear this one, for example. Love it. These are my top 10 plugins from Melda's MMixingFXBundle. The sale is still going on for maybe 2 or 3 days. So if you want any of these plugins, grab them while they're still on sale and consider using my affiliate link in the description. Thanks for watching. See you again soon. Bye.